Welcome to Screen Chat. I'm Neale Bastians, and this is the show where I sit around with friends and chat about film and television and all the related pop culture. This is round 2 of an awesome chat I had with Warren Nightingale and Alex Watkinson about the Rocky Saga. Last time, we had just finished off with Rocky 3, and we're about to dive into Rocky 4. So, here we go. Moving on, Rocky 4. And this is now, where are we here? We're in 1985.
Yeah.
I thought it was later than that, but it's 85. This is right in the heart of the 80s now. And this one really felt to me like this is like full on. This is like MTV Rocky. There's a lot more, like the music has really transitioned. There's lots of rock. I thought there was more montages, but when we watched it back, there weren't as many as I thought I remembered, but just a lot more.
There's still a lot of montages.
Rock music, and even when they're not full on montages, they're just a lot of, it's a music video. Now, this is the one they bring in Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago and the giant Russian, and this is like in the heart of 80s Americana and anti-Russian sentiment, and wow, is this movie xenophobic. Like, very, like, the Russians are portrayed, like, this is very caricature, this is very just stereotype, and they're evil and they're nasty, and they have this one line struck me early on, and I thought it was hilarious that how poorly it was written, and it's like, Russia has entered professional boxing, and he shows up in his army uniform, and they play it. The whole film is played as if Drago is like officially representing the government of Russia, and he has all this, and it's like, what?
They've had an amateur scene over there, but never really had boxing before.
No, he would if they're into pro boxing. No, he would just be a Russian pro boxer that had formerly been in the army or something like that.
Right.
And it's so ridiculous, but it's like they want to trot out the uniforms, and it still has to be USA versus Russia, and it's plucky little Rocky against the whole Russian army, basically. And, later on it gets to be Rocky, but so Drago coming over there. I guess Rocky's retired in the beginning of this. Is that how they play it out?
Yeah. Everybody's retired.
And Drago wants to challenge him, and Rocky doesn't want to take. So instead, now Creed comes out of retirement. He hasn't never come out of retirement to fight Rocky for the title or to get back into boxing. But now this picks at his patriotism. And I can sort of buy that because he wore the American color. He wore the Stars and Stripes as his colors, and his whole routine in the first film of coming out. So
yeah, as George Washington.
Exactly. So
okay.
And then as Uncle Sam, you can sell me that maybe Apollo is a very patriotic guy, and this really picks a bone. This puts a bone in his craw about this.
He's
Russian,
a real American. He's
this Russian coming over.
Yeah.
So he takes the fight, and he doesn't take it very seriously. He doesn't train enough. But
to the full music of James Brown.
He comes out for his full
the
thing.
The entire song.
Exactly. Yeah, they play the whole Coming to America. It's like a Coming to America music video. But right before that, at the press conference, the one thing where I thought, like, this is really wacky. Apollo gets, like, inappropriately aggravated that Drago's manager predicts a victory. And he's really angry about the trash talk.
Loses his marbles.
Loses it.
Yeah.
Apollo is the king of trash talk. And all this guy does is basically trash talk him, and not nearly as bad as he trash talks Rocky in the first and second one. He's just like, no, you're inferior. We're younger and bigger. We're going to win. It is and Apollo is like ethically offended.
Like he said he was going to slap his mother or something like that.
How dare you even suggest that you can hang with me? And Drago's a monster. Like, there's no way. This is how, and it's, wow, why is Apollo so upset by this? He should have just trash talked back, but he gets really upset, and I'm like, what?
I mean, for me, Rocky 4, it was the summer of Rocky that year. I remember cruising around with the Rocky 4 soundtrack. I think I wore it out. Mm-hmm. No Easy Way Out, Burning Heart. I mean, Living in America, Hearts on Fire. Man, all of it. I knew the words, could sing it lyric for lyric. My buddy Joe at the time, Joe went from Hulk Hogan mania. He was a Hulkamaniac to a Rocky maniac that year with how. It was, they're almost parallels. He was the Hulk Hogan of the boxing world in that movie, basically, right? It was just, to your point, an MTV video, but I remember that movie being amazing. Mm-hmm. look back now, and it was probably the soundtrack of that movie that carried the amazement for me. I bought into all the montages hard. I bought the farm, right? But going back to it now, and this is where I mentioned earlier, if I were to have rated the Rocky movies in my younger days,
right,
I probably would have gone 4, 3, 1, 2.
Oh, really?
Not so much.
Not so much. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll try to rate them a little bit later on, and we'll.
So, 4 really dropped down the scale as my age has gone up the scale, right? So
take off the nostalgia glasses, and all of a sudden it doesn't look quite so good.
Yeah, and it was, heartwarming to watch it again, and heart wrenching to watch it again, all in the same boat.
Yeah,
so.
it's.
I did struggle with it out of the gates myself. And what really for me, just the whole context of the fight taking place over in Russia, and the idea of somehow Rocky's winning the crowd on his side. I was just like, I don't
it's
how
very like egotistical in terms of from an American perspective of being they're hardcore lifting logs training is going to beat the steroids and will defeat him anyways, and Rocky's going to chop down this much bigger opponent and the crowd will turn on Drago.
How's that ever going to work? And then he does a big speech at the end again that speaks to the arrogance.
Change.
Yeah, exactly.
Change.
And I was like, oh my god.
And that speech is, considering the film, that speech is very hypocritical for them to have written. I guess Stallone wrote this one as well. Yeah. Considering the tone of the film is so xenophobic and so anti-Russian, that then giving this big speech about how, but we're all just the same. But it's like, does Rocky even have that moment of realizing that?
It just doesn't add up that it was being billed as this. We're going to, this is going to be about the world coming together and not like, we're going to pit U.S. against Russia to begin with, but we're going to show how we're all just part of this big planet called Earth.
If they'd maybe somehow humanized Drago.
Yeah.
But he's not. All that he gets mad because they start slapping him and saying it's your fault. Yeah, he's still and there's no scene. Like it's not even
machines and all.
It's not even like after he's beaten, he comes over, and I don't think there's a thing of him coming over and shaking Rocky's hand or anything, whatever. He just all of a sudden vanishes. That's it. We're done with him. The robot got beat, and out he goes.
Yeah, and just the montages. Like again, this is a staple of a Rocky film. You are going to see a montage. But to have over 30 minutes of montage sequences, it is like you mentioned. It feels like very MTV, but it's just a lot much. I once somebody suggested to me that the reason why there was so many montages was because it was, since thematically it was against a Russian opponent, that they were utilizing Russian filmmaking in the sense of it was a tribute to like montage theory of Russian filmmaking in the 1920s. And I went, that's
a stretch. Somebody's giving them a lot of artistic credit there to say
there's a bit of licensing there. I would say that's why it exists to that extent.
I think it's more that
the training sequences you were talking about earlier that takes place in Russia is just silly. People love the pounding on the meat, people love the chasing the chicken, but now we have to watch the log throwing or the log
carrying a log and tipping, helping a horse carriage get right run up a mountain, and
pulling Paulie on a sled,
and like not doing any sparring or anything like that. But I think the series is like starting to run on fumes here. They've run out of themes. They know they keep repeating themselves, and there's less and less story, and it's more just trope and cliche. And here we go. And poor Burt Young is just now complete joke. He doesn't even have one serious scene in here. All he does is drop jokes or be the butt of jokes.
And we make him star with the Jar Jar Binks of the Rocky series, which is that robot. Sicko. Right?
Yeah, oh my God, that's right, the robot.
Yeah, Happy Birthday, Paulie, the robot.
That's right.
Yeah, this movie's ridiculous.
This is my gal.
So stupid. And then... and like Adrian goes to Russia with him to train, and they just leave their kid at home in America. Like, was she really just leave her? Is there some reason she has to be there
with the robot? Maybe.
And then his kid and his two buddies are on the couch watching the fight, And I guess I don't understand time zones, but apparently it's night in Russia and in Los Angeles, or in Philly rather, at the same time. So, okay, whatever. It's a small thing there, other than that a kid is allowed to stay up watch a professional boxing match where his father's potentially going to get killed.
I remember liking
with no parent there.
Yeah, I remember liking the original poster though. I remember thinking that poster was really well done with Rocky draped in a flag.
But yeah,
I'll give it that
for the patriotism. Yeah. But but anyways, moving on now. When we were planning it, and Alex is already shaking his head no. When I was first planning this, I even said we were going to outright skip Rocky V. And because when you read forums, most people that are fans of us do not count this canonically at all. After watching 3 and 4, and particularly 4, just like with Alex, I remembered, I think I'd seen it some years ago, and I was like, okay, it's not as good as I remembered when I was growing up, but it was worse. Like those were worse than I remember. They did not hold up nearly as well as I thought. So then I started thinking about 5, and I thought, what if 5's not as bad as I thought it was? And like John Avildsen comes back to direct, and I'm like, maybe it's getting a bad rep. So I've decided to dive in 5. Really? And I watched it, and within 10 minutes, I was like, you know what? It's not as bad as I remembered. It's far, far worse. It is beyond horrible. Everybody is reduced to pure caricature. Rocky and Paulie are rewinded right back to part 1, and it's just like, hey, they're just here. Literally, they go back to the old neighborhood. They're wearing their old clothes.
Paulie did something that made him lose their fortune, right?
Yeah, the opening scenes are still in Russia, and then they come home, and Rocky hears Paulie and Adrian fighting, and he comes into the room, and they're arguing because Paulie somehow signed over power of attorney for all of Rocky's money to an accountant who then invested Rocky's money without his permission into condos and then lost it all. And I'm like, why would Paulie even have power of attorney over Rocky's money?
Condominiums? I don't wear them.
Exactly. Has Paulie... For 1 second,
of all the characters, right? Like, how
for 1 second in the previous 4 films, is there one moment where you would look at Paulie and go, "That's a guy I'd give money to, let alone let him be signing on my entire fortune"? And Rocky and Adrian both seem clueless that Paulie even had this power. I always assumed Adrian's taking care of the money. How did she let a situation arise as to where Paulie could sign off on this? This is maybe the phoniest thing in the entire series.
I don't know what was going on during Stallone's life at the point of this movie, but
who did Stallone give power of attorney to that he lost his money to, that he wrote this in? Who is Paulie a stand-in for here in Sly's life?
5 I did see. I didn't watch it recently. I just remember just getting angry watching it, so I did not.
It's horrible. It's not even comically bad. It's embarrassingly bad. Everything is awful, and I think the less said about it, the better.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, the actor who played George, what's the character's name? George Washington.
The guy that's the stand-in for Don King.
For Don King. Yeah. He was in The Big Lebowski. He played a police cop in the scene in which...
is he the cop that interviews him at his home?
Interviews him at home and says...
We'll close the case on that one.
Exactly, and says, I don't think... His partner says, I don't think he'll be getting the tape deck back. And he goes, or the Creedence.
Or the Creedence. Oh my...
He's the one who delivers or the
Creedence. He's that cop?
He's the same actor, yeah.
On this connection alone, I've now elevated this film in my opinion.
Yeah, that's...
I will have to rethink my ranking of the films now.
Yeah, no, Richard Gant is the actor's name, and he was so that's.
Thank God he was able to redeem himself.
There's one redeeming quality to the film.
Every family has that one drunk uncle that sits in the corner. You always recognize that it's there, but you don't really talk about it.
Rocky Five is the drunkle of this family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
all right. Moving on. We would then skip 16 years. Rocky V came in 1990. It was 16 years, 2006, before we would get another entry in the series, and we got Rocky Balboa. And I was super ready for this. Like, I thought the promotion leading up to it was really great. Their tagline of the greatest underdog story of our time is back for one final round was fantastic. I just got a chill just saying that. Yeah. I think this is a really good film. lots of nostalgia for the earlier films, especially the original. Rocky has a whole tour where he sort of goes back through the dates with Adrian.
Oh,
and all that.
Well, that was nice. I enjoyed those scenes.
Great thing. One of my favorite parts about especially the early part, but the whole film in general, is Burt Young gets redeemed. He's hung out in the series. He's stuck around, and Paulie is he's given stuff to do again. He's not just the jokey guy. And they even write in, there's even a thing of him being upset with Rocky and saying, I can't keep coming back and reliving the past. You were good to her. I was bad to her, and I don't want. It hurts me as much as you want to remember that. For me, it wasn't good times. It hurts me because it just reminds me of how bad I was to her when in that time. And I thought that was an awesome thing that Stallone wrote and gave Burt Young there. It's worth the whole rest of the series. Just for Burt Young, it was worth living through all his horrible stuff in the past 3 films to get to that.
Yeah, and leading up to the film, I had a very different reaction than you did. Because I was thinking, why are they taking this character out of the cemetery into dance in front of the stage again? I'm like, we're done with Rocky. That's been put to bed a long time ago. But it won me over for sure. Just watching the film and just the whole idea of Rocky's character is living in the past and he's on a journey to kind of bring himself sort of back into what it is to be in the world now. Mm-hmm. And again, like you mentioned, the scenes where he's trying to relive all those moments and things, and there's just so many little love letters to the original that it really did win me over, and there was a nice story there. So that for me, I would say it's probably even like my second favorite in the series. Yeah,
it's right up there for me too. The first hour or so, it's got a runtime I think of around 140. Yeah, and like the first hour or so is a little disjointed at times. It does feel like there are missing scenes, and I'd read that there was a much longer cut of it, whatever. I think it's the right length. I think it runs properly, and I don't think I'd want it to be much longer than that. And I think at times they probably lose scenes that were maybe a little bit expositional, but they leave in a lot of great character scenes that I loved. The scenes like with Paulie saying I wasn't good to her, and there's a few other scenes. There's a couple like with his son, and every scene that's in there, usually most of them feel pretty good. Him in front of the board. Like I've read there's a cut scene of them explaining more that he doesn't have brain damage and why they would allow him to fight again, and they cut it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't even care.
I don't need that.
I don't need that. I'd rather see the scene of him in front of the board, given his thing of about having stuff taken away as he gets older. But I thought it was really great. And then the last half hour just hums. And I was like, I've seen this movie numerous times. And again, the other night watching it, I was sitting forward on the edge of my couch, and I was getting super excited. And I just love the last half hour of this film. Yeah,
it's got a lot going for it. In the scene between him and his son, like where he gives that speech, he says, life isn't about how hard you hit; it's about how hard you can take a hit.
And keep moving forward.
And keep moving forward.
Yep.
And you're better than that, right? It just there's something in that scene that just feels, this is who I am. And this is what you come from, and you don't even recognize that. And it seems to be almost like something that Rocky's saying from over the years. Like there's something about this film that really sort of transcends over, I would say, right from like 2 onward. That it's sort of it's really pulling back deeply, and it does have something to say about aging and getting older, and what it means like to be in the place of a place that you used to love, and you're not quite there and you're stuck in that past. And
this is the first time since the first or second film, but this is the first time in at least the last 3 that it actually has something new to say.
Yeah.
And it's got something other than just retreading, the same stories again. And it was a great choice to have Adrian already gone.
Yeah.
I know at some point in an earlier version she dies in the film, and then they just thought it didn't work that way. And I think I even read somewhere that Stallone talked to Talia Shire, and she just said, no, you know what, you're right, it's the right choice. And she even made some kind of a public statement saying, I haven't been cut out of this film. I agree with their choice to not have me in it. It's better off for the character to just be gone.
Yeah.
And Stallone really I was disappointed he didn't get a nomination.
Well, I almost think he got a nomination for Creed because of this film, to be honest. I think it was a makeup call.
Yeah, I would not completely disagree with that statement.
Yeah, like I think this film, more people kind of, I think a lot of people kind of scoffed at it at first, saying, oh, God.
Can I just stop for 1 second?
Yeah.
That was a really stupid thing I just said, isn't it?
What's
I
that?
would not completely disagree with that statement. What a quibbling way to say I agree with you.
You can just say you agree.
After I said it, I'm like,
Just come
man,
around. Just come around the corner and say it, right?
I sound like a pretentious asshat there saying that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Well, I lost my train of thought there. But the one thing that the film I really like about the film is that it's so rich from the original Rocky. Like everything from the turtles and the windows to
Cuff and Link.
Yeah, Cuff and Link. Yeah, exactly. To almost like having those shots of the original dates. In a lot of even the pictures that they have on the wall now, of course, are from other series, or even that painting that they have of
Rocky and Apollo.
In the
Rocky and
restaurant.
Apollo in the restaurant, and having Spider there, like his first
Spider Rico, his original
Spider-
opponent. Yeah.
Exactly. He's there, and it feels like this is back to that original Rocky that that we saw that was a little bit tender. The whole inspiration of why Rocky wrote, or sorry, I keep calling him Rocky, but why Stallone wrote Rocky was because he couldn't get a break. He was the guy who was always getting cast as the thug, that guy,
The tough guy.
the tough
Yeah.
guy,
Heavy.
and he said to himself, "What if I wrote a script that is about a tough guy but has a soul?" And so he went down that pathway, and he came up with this character who he absolutely insisted on performing because he knew this was going to be his one shot.
They talk about Balboa being the bookend, right, to the series, and
So
yeah,
it comes back to that.
it comes beautifully back to that. And again, it touches on everything in the first movie without checking boxes.
Exactly.
There's nothing worse than checking boxes when you're going.
Oh
back
yeah,
through
absolutely.
A
It
sequel
doesn't feel like they're
or-
doing that.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
This is telling the natural story. It's almost as if he had written this 25 years earlier and just waited till he aged into the role.
Yeah.
And then you get into the fight scenes later on with Antonio Tarver. And
Yeah.
you watch the training for the fight scenes. So there's not a sound in that movie, in that fight scene, that's not the sound of a real punch.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they went back to using actual real mic'd punches, so that it's not like chains hitting leather jackets
And
anymore.
Stallone
Shotguns.
takes a beating in that movie, and
Oh, yeah.
Tarver takes some. And for a professional boxer to step into a movie and take some shots
from an actor.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And I mean, even going back to 4, and I didn't realize that about 4 digging into that. I didn't realize how much of a beating Dolph actually put on Rocky in that.
Oh,
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
apparently
got in the
sent
hospital.
Stallone to the
He
hospital.
stopped
Yeah.
filming for 8 days with an
Yeah.
enlarged heart.
Yeah.
Right. But, for Rocky to stand in, again, across from, at the time, one of the pound for pound best fighters in the world in Antonio Tarver, and take a right hook, left cross, an uppercut, just incredible. Just incredible. And, and they taught Tarver how to act. Instead of an actor how to box.
And it doesn't look that way to me. Like I think he carries his weight.
Oh, I
Like-
agree,
like,
100%.
He's good in his role.
If I say there's one miss in the movie, again, and it's just a secondary or a third storyline that's not critical to the movie, but the sell at the end is sort of to be that Tarver really is a good boxer who just was underappreciated, and now he had his money fight and he stood in there with the tough guy, right? Because you're supposed to kind of cheer for them both at the end.
Right.
I don't know so much that you cheer for Tarver lasting.
That'd be an uphill battle to ever have people cheer against
Rocky.
retiring Rocky.
No, it's just at the end you're supposed to feel good about both of them, right?
Or even equally.
Yeah.
The end of that one, like watching it again, like I said, I've seen it many times, but even again watching it the other night, I was just like at the end, my heart was just swelling, like when the music is really crescending, and then you cut to just him at the graveside and says, "Yo, Adrian, we did it."
Yeah, and again, nice little shout back in a very quieter way, right? And it just speaks to the tone of the film. And you guys were talking about the fights. I love how they covered the shots in the fights. Like that first round, it feels like you're actually watching it on television or pay-per-view. It is shot.
Well, yeah, they shot it differently.
They shot it totally different. Like
they shot it
the
just
other
like they
fights.
shoot actual boxing events.
There
with
was
HD cameras.
Exactly.
There was a pay-per-view the next night.
Yeah.
No, it was the night of. They filmed after the pay-per-view.
Well, it was after the pay-per-view, yeah. And they said, can we piggyback this? And they basically had, 1 or 2 cracks at it.
and told the audience to stick around another 25, 30 minutes.
And they had Jim Lampley, they had Max Kellerman, right?
Everybody right there, ready to go.
And I love that scene where Rocky leans over the ropes and goes, "How you doing?" And Kellerman goes,
Rocky Balboa just said, "Hey, how you doing?" I almost wonder if that wasn't him, like honestly having that genuine emotion.
Yeah, that could be legit, because I feel I would have reacted the exact same way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then they started, after the first round, they started cutting to like a more typical film but it just brings you into that world, and they did lots of creative cutting. Like all of a sudden you see like a shot happen and it kind of goes to negative and it jump cuts in it, and you see like the sweat, almost the frame rate's changing, so you see the sweat flying, and it is just such a great sequence.
Yeah, it was a really well shot boxing match.
It was.
But we talk about in the first one them making a movie where the hero doesn't win, and they pull it off a second time.
And they do it again, and it's absolutely the right call.
Yeah.
And I know they'd filmed it multiple ways just in case they decided to edit it differently, but no, it's the right call, and it works.
Him walking out while
he's not even waiting for the decision. He's
let's go.
This is what I did.
Let's go.
Yeah. This is what I did.
Cheering, he's high-fiving.
And they're reading off the scorecards, and
he doesn't even care.
Rocky has left the building.
Yeah, it's secondary. It's like he said it when he's in front of that board, that commission there. I just want to stand in there and say I am, and so he done his thing. He didn't care what the scores were. Out he went.
Yeah, what it reminds me of is that Dylan Thomas poem, the one that says, do no. It's sorry, whoa.
Boom.
We need a trivia fact or something. Is that the
voice from above? No, but what it reminds me of is that Dylan Thomas poem. Don't go gently into the night. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It goes rage, rage, rage against the dying light. That idea of as you age, don't go down, just scream into the void.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like to me. It was like Rocky won one last time, wasn't going to go down without putting up a fight.
Yeah. No,
even age can't put him down.
It was fantastic, and then the cemetery scene, and then the credits rolled, and they showed. And it was they just went with cameras and set up at the Rocky Steps for a couple days. And like I was saying, that people come there and do that every day. All that footage in the end credits is just legit people rolling up and they were doing it. And most of them did not know they were filming a thing. I'm sure the Philly fanatic showing up dressed as Rocky knew it was
probably
going to be
a little bit of something.
The mascot for the Phillies. But most of those people just were showing up to do that.
That's an ongoing everyday occurrence.
It's an everyday thing there. And then they cut and the music gets really quiet and it's this really stripped down, slowed down of the theme. And it's just shooting. It's like just from behind Stallone staring out at Philly, and apparently the snow had just started to fall. And he says in the commentary he didn't know they were filming him, and he thought he was saying goodbye to the character. He didn't know about they didn't know Creed was going to happen 9 years later or whatever, or 8 or 9 years later. So he just thought this was, and he says he intentionally left that scene, the scene where Rocky runs the steps holding his dog Punchy and whatever.
Yeah,
that was the last thing. That was the last thing they shot in the movie. Because he knew that was going to be an emotional thing, and he had built it up for himself that was going to be an emotional thing, and he was going to say goodbye to the character there. And so that shot in the end credits there, and I think you can buy it as a print too. It's really awesome shot, and he didn't know they were filming him. That was him literally just having a moment after he thought the cameras were off, saying goodbye to his character.
Wow.
And it's really, it killed me in the theater when I saw it that first time. I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. But
and him running up with an old dog, the old dog makes up one more time, right?
Yeah.
It's just
this
nice.
Guy here, a couple of good friends and whatever, and he's right back in there. That's Rocky, a couple of breaks and I'm right back in there. I love that dog. It was a great scrappy little dog.
And I'm going to throw this in, and we had this conversation, a couple days ago when we were watching some of the movies. We've talked about Little Marie coming back into the fold, and was her character necessary or not. I like the character of Little Marie because when he says he's going to go back and do this, he's going to fight this fight. Throughout the entire series, he's had Mick, he's had Adrian, he's had everybody say no. He finally sits down in front of somebody and she says, you go be you. If you need to fight this guy, you go fight this guy. He finally had a little bit of a champion behind him. Just that little voice to say, go get him. Not the I'll cheer you on after I've told you no.
Yeah.
It's the, no, I believe in you. I love you. I want you to go do this. Go fight. So to me, that was a little Rocky win moment from a character standpoint.
And I like Marie coming back too. That felt I don't know. It felt like a nice little.
It
wink
does,
from
yeah.
the
I agree.
writer.
I would tend to sometimes be in the camp of going, maybe it was one character too many, but I can't disagree with what you're saying there. That she is somebody that believes in him and doesn't say no to him. I really loved Paulie's ending too. Sorry, Warren, you were about to say something else?
Oh no, I was just going to say the other thing I thought was kind of a nice little take. Like each of the early films, there's always a scene where Rock's being told he was a bum or whatever. This time around, it was from like a bar patron of a younger character who doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Just some guy in the bar.
Yeah,
her character's
that guy
name
apologizes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I really like that scene. I thought, okay, that's kind of a cool, different little twist
was really
on
great,
that.
Yeah. I loved. They really gave Paulie a few great things, and more like earlier on, he had the whole bit where he breaks down and says, "I was bad to Adrian," but then I love it at the end when they're about to walk out.
Oh.
And he stops him and he says, "Rocco, no matter what happens tonight, all the stuff you got inside the demons, let it be done. Get them out. Let it go out." And then they give Paulie, like when it's going to be the final round, his kid gets to say, "You go out there and do it then." Okay, go, whatever, I believe in you. But then they still give Paulie the last word. Paulie just says, "Rocco, it's the last round of your life." And I thought that was a really awesome little line. I got to chill just saying that now.
Yeah, you gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. And I thought it was awesome. And then he goes out there and does it. And really a great ending and a great film.
Yeah.
So do we rank him here?
No, let's throw in. Let's keep going.
We're going to include Creed in the ranking.
We can hit an asterisk afterwards. We can do it both ways.
Nice.
Let's swing it out. We got one to go here, and then we move. And everybody thought, I think, that was the end of the saga. Stallone thought it was the end of it, and then writer director, who is now extremely notable in Hollywood, Ryan Coogler, was apparently a Rocky superfan. And then went ahead, and I think he wrote it without even seeking permission. He wrote this script and then approached Stallone and whoever else had I guess Stallone had the rights to it or somebody else, but with the story for Creed, and they liked it so much that they greenlit and they went ahead and made it. And
so glad they did.
I really like Creed. I don't really think it's maybe not even really part of the Rocky saga. It's more like this is a new saga that just caps off the other or takes over for the other one. I think it does a really great job of paying tribute to Rocky.
Yeah,
there's a lot of nods in it, but I think it also stands on its own. It's not like built. It's not like here we're going to trot out the tropes.
Exactly.
Go ahead. This goes to me like Hobbit goes to Lord of the Rings rather than Star Wars trying to throw nine movies out. It's part of it. The worlds coincide and there's crossover characters, but it stands on its own.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Oren.
Oh yeah, no. Basically, I was going to say what's nice is that you do have Rocky's voice. It feels authentic as Rocky's voice in it, but it is somebody else's tale in this universe. Like it is a nice little offshoot. So is it part of the saga? Well, maybe not, but it's definitely part of the universe. Like it definitely is part of that, and it feels like it has fresh legs that it's going to be moving forward. And you know what? I can sign in for another couple of films.
It does.
Watching Creed's.
I think it's and the first time I saw it, I think I was just having a bad day because thinking back from the theater, I thought I didn't like it coming out of the theater. But when I watched it again yesterday, I'm like, wow, no, I think they do it really right. That there's things like Adonis trains or goes jogging in a gray tracksuit and referencing kind of, but it's a nice one. It's not a beat up old one, whatever. But they do the gray tracksuit, but they don't have to throw it in your face. And they do a few things like that. The music is dropped in a couple times, but just briefly. Yeah. And they wrote
with a few remixes.
And they wrote Adonis his own theme.
Yeah.
One of the best things they did that I think when I saw it the first time, I didn't understand it. And now that after I saw it yesterday, I appreciate it a lot more. That I felt when Adonis was training, I felt like they were leading me to the moment where you're going to run up the steps, and then they didn't do it, and then instead they did it right at the end.
Yeah.
And originally I felt like, oh, they didn't have the gut. They don't want to just play the tropes, but then they don't have the guts to not do it. And then I think, but after watching it the second time, I was very wrong about that. That I think they recognized, Ryan Coogler recognized, and absolutely agree with him, that the running up the steps, that is Rocky's thing.
That is Rocky.
And if Creed were to do it and co-opt that, I think now that would be very much just shoplifting tropes and things from Rocky.
Yeah.
But when he does it at the end with Rocky, and Rocky's still recovering from his cancer treatment and has whatever, they still do the thing, but they do it with the character, with Rocky, and I think that was the proper thing to do.
Yeah.
the only drawback to it, and I don't think there's a way to get around it. They should, it should have been exactly the way it was, but I don't think Creed as a film quite finds its own run up the steps moment. Like, he's running in the streets and those guys on the dirt bikes are going past him, and they said this is a thing they do, so they're kind of doing it, and he has a jogging moment, and then they're all circling him, but it didn't have for me quite the iconic nature of running up the steps.
The part with the bikes was a little bit of a miss for me. I get it that's a thing that they do and stuff.
Yeah, it felt a little forced to me.
Yeah, it felt like we were trying to create that moment, like you said. I agree. He hasn't quite found his trophy moment yet, but as a movie overall, the way he trained, I mean, let's be honest. The original script has Rocky dropping out.
Yeah, Rocky dying.
Yeah. I'm glad he didn't.
I'm glad he didn't. And I'll stop there for 1 second. That originally, like when I knew that years ago, I thought it was kind of like wrong. They should have gone ahead of doing it. But then when I was watching yesterday, I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe it's better off that he doesn't, and because it kind of might have felt like they're just copping out and repeating Mick dying.
And the you fight, I fight. I mean,
I thought that was really great too.
That was great.
Yeah.
And there's a few things in it that I'm like, whoa, that's really kind of awesome. Even something as simple as the titles. The titling of the thing. So one thing I always liked about the Rocky was the huge titles with the music coming on. This time around with the Creed, I can't remember exactly the setup, but it was something like, "Oh, what's your name?"
Oh,
and it cuts to black, and then
with Felicia Rashad at the beginning with the young kid in juvie.
And wasn't that a great scene? Like, like all of a sudden she walks in and she's just looking at him, and you could read on her face that she's like, yeah, that is Apollo's kid. Yep. I can tell by the way he looks.
Yeah.
Like, you just read what she is thinking. She gives such I really appreciate her performance in this film. But again, it goes, what's your name? And then all of a sudden,
and then it flips to
Creed in that big Rocky type, not quite the same font, but enough of a close that you're dealing with it in the same world.
Like the other thing, but doing its own thing, not just copying the other thing.
And so there's moments like that where I'm like, oh, that's really kind of cool. I can get behind that. That gives me that kind of feeling that I had watching the original, without it being kind of just a cheapened ripoff like you guys were talking about.
It really is its own film. Yeah. It's not just another Rocky sequel.
She doesn't show up at the fights. She mails him the shorts. Yeah. Right? Like, there's just...
Which was another great touch. Yeah. That it says Creed and Johnson on the shorts.
Yeah.
But they would be in the style of his father's with the stripes and the stars and stripes.
It just says... And he never refers to her as Mom.
No.
But the card says Ma.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, it's just those little nuances that make this movie just brilliant. And Rocky fan or not, I think... It can stand on its own, but this movie was written by a super fan for super fans, and it grabs all of us. Yeah. Right.
Now, from a technical, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even that fight sequence that he has, like not where he's fighting down in Mexico or whatever, but the first bout, I can't remember the character's name that he's fighting
against the kid that was training in the gym.
The lion.
Gym.
Yeah.
Okay,
the lion. Good. I was just about to bring that up. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I really liked about that, it was all done. It was one continuous shot.
You just cut me off. That's exactly what I was about to bring up.
And again, it's that idea of like, it's like the original, but totally different. And again, it's another boxing scene shot in a way that's really creative in a different way you haven't seen before. But it still kind of lives there. So sorry, I didn't mean
to. No, that's quite all right. It's great minds think alike. I was about to throw going from a filmmaking craft standpoint.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for the one shot. I love long, continuous shots in film and television. I think it's an awesome thing when they can coordinate it. That was a 4.5 minute no cut, and I've read that they did not. Shot. And I was looking for the seams, and there aren't any. And they said it's not. Sure. It's not seamed. It's a legit 4.5 minute continuous shot of a 2-round boxing match.
That's incredible.
Of two guys doing a choreographed hitting each other. The cameraman always has to be in the right spot to make sure that he's not catching them if they're whiffing or not catching them if they're not hitting as hard. With a third character in the ring of a referee in there moving around. They all got to be coordinated the way they're moving so they're not blocking shots and not screwing it up. Yeah. And includes going to the corner in the middle to talk to Rocky. So they're hitting dialogue, hitting choreographed fighting, and for 4.5 straight minutes.
It's an incredible incredible
wow,
sequence. Yeah,
that's
incredible
crazy.
sequence. Plus, too, there would be focus pulling, I'm sure, in the middle of that too, right? And you are, that's right too. Now I remember as you're talking, there's a moment where all of a sudden, he it does flip to Rocky, and Rocky says, "Go for it now," or whatever it is, and it flips right back into the sequence.
Yeah.
And it is so seamless, and there's so much energy to it. And just to think about how the camera operator is basically dancing around them the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you go in there, okay, strip out the dialogue part of in between rounds when Rocky's in his corner, when he goes to his corner. You just if you took 4 minutes of a choreographed fight scene, most movies you couldn't do 4 straight minutes of 2 guys doing a choreographed boxing match, let alone putting the cameraman in there who now has to keep moving in with them to be in the right spot and to catch everything. And the third character of the referee.
No ghosts.
That's crazy. Like, and for them to hit and move, and like they're moving, it's not even like just 2 guys sitting there swinging at each other. They're moving around, constantly moving in space, and so is the cameraman. Like, that is an unbelievable shot.
Yeah.
I like one of the ways, you talk about some of the new with the old and make it Rocky, but make it not. And I like the newness of it when every time he meets a new contender, a new boxer.
Oh, and
they
flash up the freeze and they flash his stats.
They got his stats. They got his name. Very video game style, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that part. You get who's that guy? Well, I don't need a backstory on that guy because I can just quickly read it out, right? Mm-hmm. He's the number 2 contender. He's 31-0, and his nickname's the Lion, or you know what I mean? I thought that little add-in.
I love that too.
Brings the newness to the Rocky series.
Creative way to get the exposition in there of what you need to know about these guys.
Oh yeah, and very quickly, when he challenged for his keys, and all of a sudden the second guy comes in and he read his stats, we're like, oh yeah, he's in trouble.
I'm next, and it's like pound for pound champion. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah. No, that was cool. And so, Warren, you got something else there?
No,
I see you reading off your notes.
Yeah.
Do you need light?
Yeah, we've been chatting for a bit here.
Yeah.
The sun's going down.
Keep talking. I'm going to try to flick a light on.
No, I was just taking a look here. This time around, just because I'm more familiar with Tessa Thompson, I was even more impressed with her. And to find out that a lot of the music that's in the film is actually her music.
It's her music, yeah.
I thought it was just incredible. So I made myself a little note here that I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because over the years I've become much more of just a fan of what she's doing and what she's done. And the fact that the music that's in the film, like when they walk into the bar and she's performing, I'm like, that's awesome.
And so the anti-Adrian.
Yeah.
Right? You talked about the strength of the female character,
Good point.
Like just the they start off not a date.
Yeah.
Just going for food, right? Just going to go grab a bite to eat.
And what do they grab? Philly cheesesteak sandwich.
But even the point where he's moving in with Rocky and he's like, I'll call you. And she's like, what does she say? Like, I won't hold my breath or something like that. It's I won't wait. Or right? She's her own person and her strengths, right?
They also do a thing there where they defy a normal trope of when she looks out the window and sees him moving, and she goes, "You didn't tell me you're moving." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to stay with Unc for a couple weeks while I'm training." Blah 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 blah. Most films, 99% of the time, you're going to think that this is now going to become a dramatic point between them, that she'll get mad that he didn't tell her, and she doesn't. She's just like, you didn't tell me your uncle was Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. And then after that, she's like, cool. Oh, yeah, no, you got to go do you, and I'm going to be me and whatever. And yeah, very not like, oh, I'm dependent on you now. You have to be here emotionally for me because now you blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
No, she's a very independent character. And that was really awesome.
She has the best shutdown scene ever, too. Ever been in the middle of an argument where you could just kind of wish you could turn the hearing aids off?
Oh yeah, totally.
He's banging on the door saying, and she's like, "I'm out."
Tunes him out.
I'm right out.
Turns off the hearing aid. And can't hear you. Yeah, no. All in all, really great film, and I'm a Ryan Coogler fan because of that film.
Oh yeah,
he went on. Well, he's got no problems. Ryan Coogler directed Black Panther.
Yeah, and Fruitvale Station
did all right as well.
Yeah,
right?
Fruitvale Station. His previous work is good, but now that he's hit Black Panther and put $1 billion in Mickey's bank, he can call his own shots in Hollywood. But he did not direct or have anything to do with Creed 2.
Oh really?
His only credit on it is a story credit because he created the character, he created the character Adonis and Tessa Thompson's character. He didn't write it. He didn't direct it. Nothing.
That's interesting, eh? So after, You know how many films we had? Either it was just Stallone or Alverson doing the directing, and now we have two fresh voices, so to speak.
Yeah,
guy in the hand of the world.
I guess he said what he needed to say, and he's got other stuff on the go and decided not to. Or I have heard nothing about if it was a timing issue or whatever. You'd think with him being a golden boy right now, if it was a timing issue, they would have figured something out. But I think maybe he's just like, hey, no, I told my Creed story, and somebody else can tell it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first trailer when it dropped for Creed 2.
For Creed 2, let's talk.
Oh yeah.
The first or the second trailer?
The
first one. I guess. The first one's
one,
sorry, the first one's.
It's Creed 2. It's boxing. You see, you see him hit the mat a little bit. You know that there's some turmoil.
Looks like a pretty standard boxing sequel.
Big menacing boxer comes walking towards you. Okay, he's got to fight the Clubber Lang of his days, or the Drago of his day, and then the turn and the robe,
and it just says Drago.
And I'm literally tingling from my toes up to my elbows right now. I lost my marbles.
I think the film internet, people that watch movie trailers on the internet that day, shit its pants when the Drago went up. People were like, everybody had that same reaction, like, holy crap, here we go, Drago. And instantly, that was such a well-crafted trailer and a detail that, as far as I know, had largely gone unknown during the production, that nobody knew this.
Wow.
Because I remember that day when it happened, like all the like film internet stuff I watched, like the YouTubes and the film Twitter, everybody freaked out about it, so nobody knew that was coming. And these are the people that would have known this was coming. And also, like, there's scenes like Dolph Lundgren's in the film, and nobody ever connected that he was on set.
No.
So that was well done to them.
Oh, and again, what a great reveal, eh?
Yeah.
Like, show, don't tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, no need for exposition, no need to set up why this is going to be a big reveal.
Yeah.
It's just all of a sudden turns around and you see the name on the robe.
Boom. And no one's saying 100 times, no, he's not in it, no, he's not in it.
Yeah,
right?
no
Exactly.
denials, no whatever.
Yeah.
They just managed to have nobody figure out that this was going on, and they laid that down, and wow. And then interest in that film, for me, went from like a 3 to a 9 in that with that one reveal.
And it's funny, let's talk about the marketing now for a second, because we just finished by talking about how Rocky IV was not that strong of a movie, but where the actual hold for the fan base potentially is in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like I said, years and years ago, and maybe if this homework for this podcast never came up, I don't know that my ratings would have ever changed. 4 would have always remained quite high because of the MTV nature of it, the soundtrack nature of it. So now that trailer, it hit hard, it hit home. So we know where our Rocky fan base is now, right? Because
can I just interject for 1 second and say that I love that we call this doing homework, that I can now say I got to be 44 years old before I became a guy that loves doing homework, but I'm proud of myself now.
There you go.
Sorry, carry on.
No, in that moment, I was wrapping up there, but obviously they went back and said, what's going to make me the money? We kind of pulled off 1, 2 with Creed. So now 2, if we got to visit 3, 4, and stay miles away from 5.
I kind of think, I don't know. I don't want to predict. I know no spoilers, but I kind of think it looks like probably they're going to fight twice, and I think they're going to kind of do that Rocky 3 storyline where he'll probably lose to young Drago and then have to go win it back. But
you see him hit the mat in the shorts, in
a red and white, and blue, and then later on you see him wearing red and black. Like the same motif, but it's in red or black and gray rather. Yeah. So I think that's probably.
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about Rocky though. Like the fact that
still being in there, or
the fact that 3 was when Mick all of a sudden got written out. That this might be the one. Are
you worried about? Okay, do you think they should do that? Are you worried about like? Are you worried from an emotional standpoint, or are you worried from you don't think that you're worried that you're going to watch this and go, they really should have left Rocky out of this film and he doesn't have a place?
Well, I think because of doing this podcast, there's definitely a rekindling of an emotional connection to Rocky that I had when I was a kid, right? Like when I was a young kid watching HBO in the early '80s and watching Rocky, I don't know how many times. Like definitely a reconnect to that idea of here's a misunderstood soul, right? In that sort of sense, and I do feel rekindled to that. And to now consider that, when Stallone did Creed, he was exactly the same age as Mick when Mick did Rocky. Certainly this does feel like it's coming full circle now. And if this is kind of one of the things that we're visiting this sort of time and place in the Rockyverse, we'll say, I'm a little bit worried that Rocky's not going to make it through the end of the film.
Okay, so you're audience scared, not filmmaker scared.
I'm audience scared.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm nervous, but I'm ready for it. And if it happens, I just hope I have it. I hope they lead it to me and give me that emotional moment.
Yeah.
I can take it. I don't mind crying in the theater.
I almost need to hear about it, and I need to be at home in a safe place if that's going to happen.
I'm not telling you then.
Holy
YouTube. Wow. You just told that to the wrong guy. Because now no matter what happens, I'm going to lie to you to try to get you. I'm going to try to punch you in the heart. You're going to get the knockout punch right in the heart then. Oh, God. Don't ask me what happens in the movie then.
I'm hoping he still has enough credit chops to say, no, I didn't. You wouldn't write me out of the first one, and you're not going to write me out of this.
What if he's decided it's the right thing?
But here's the thing with Rocky Balboa, that was such a great ride into the sunset. Almost figuratively from the ring. He's leaving the ring, leaves behind him, and he's happy, and there's all that, and that is where and I like Creed, I really do, and I like where they're going with it, and the fact that they found a way to make it work to move this franchise, for lack of a better way of saying it all, forward. But now I'm worried of, okay, what are they going to do with this character?
Creed 3 can start with a funeral scene.
And you'll be okay?
I'll be okay. Yeah. But I saw Rocky in this movie, so no.
Yeah, no, I don't think if he dies here, I don't think that takes away the end of Rocky Balboa from me.
No,
like we were just saying a few minutes ago, that these are two different. They live
really
in the same world, but they're two different series.
Yeah.
I think I would be able to watch the Rocky saga of those. I would watch 3 of those 6 films quite a lot again, and I could be happy with that. And then I could just think that then his character returns in another saga, and what happens there is separate and apart from it, and I'd be fine with it. If it's the natural way to go, like they didn't do it the last time and it worked out, but if they think the natural way to, as long as it doesn't come off as just copying what happened or aping what happened with Mickey, if they can make it emotionally work. It's tough. I don't know. After faking out last time with the cancer and not doing it, they can't just have the cancer. A
remission?
I don't want to think about it too much.
No.
I want to just let whatever happens and then judge it. I really don't want to write this movie in my head before I go in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because and the thing I'm also curious about is that scene with Dolph and Stallone. Like, what is that going to look like?
Just a stare down.
Is that?
I wonder if it's a stare down or if they have any dialogue.
Is it going to be from corner to corner or is
it's apparent. You can see in clips. They're toe to toe.
Oh yeah.
They do a thing where the two of them walk to the center of the ring.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay,
so I heard like some people had like a conspiracy theory that this was going to get really artsy and that at some point Rocky dies and that then Adonis just imagines him there, and then it's essentially sort of like the ghost of Rocky, but with him going to the ring.
Let's not do
that. But I'm like, no, I don't think it is, because you see them come to the center of the ring and have a face-off. So if he does die, then the face-off's at the first fight, and there's a second fight where he doesn't. But no, they do have an axe where they actually stand in the ring and look at each other.
Wow.
I think they've done their job. I think the hype's all there. They're coming off the end of a fantastic movie, which deserves a sequel.
Yeah,
it definitely deserved a second shot. I'm glad it's there. I hope this is, Creed 6. We'll be talking about down the road at some point.
And backing up to Creed itself, again mirroring the first film, he doesn't win at the end. He loses. He does not win the title. He loses by decision.
Yeah.
But he's cool. He's sort of like that fight was acknowledged as being. He was called up for it just because of hype, and it's really he would not have earned a title shot. And again, mirroring the first one, kind of where Rocky was not really a contender, just a guy picked out because it would have been hype, So
it'll be interesting
in a totally different way done, but similar things. But again, really well done.
It'll be interesting to see how they start it, right? Because the champ was going to jail for 7 years.
Yeah.
So technically, the belt would have been
stripped,
vacant. So it'll be interesting to see how they start it off and how they build his professional career to lead up to this fight. So I think it's got the makings of an absolute great movie. Of course, our star there is. Everything he touches is gold right now, right?
Yeah, he's on the short list for every single role in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
Is
Michael B.
Jordan. Yeah,
and he's so good. Like he is so good in this.
He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah. Everything he's in, he is just so solid, so committed.
Yeah. No, I enjoy watching his performance in everything I've seen him in so far. All right, let's rank these contenders. Alex, you seem to already have your ranking, so why don't you kick us off here? How would you rank these? And feel free to rank it including Creed and not including Creed. You
Okay.
can rank them and then just insert.
You're opening
and,
up, are you?
Yeah, rank the first 6 and then say where you would insert Creed if we were going to count Creed in that as well.
So I'll rank the first 5. 6. There's one in there that doesn't exist.
By all means, kick it out.
There you
then.
go.
So
then rank it
I'll rank the
last.
first 5. Rocky 1 is number 1. I've made a statement before about other movies that I like and why I like them, and as much as I want to put Balboa into the number 1 spot, there would be no Balboa without Rocky. So I actually go 1, Balboa, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 5.
So you basically go 1,
Yeah.
Balboa, and then the rest of the series
And
the
then
way,
two-
the in order
and
of
then
how
2,
they
3,
came out.
4. Yeah.
It just goes downhill for you from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, if I would have asked me,
Yeah.
I would have gone, and let's take Balboa out, because back in the original genre, I would have gone probably 4, 3, 1, 2.
Okay.
So now, yeah.
Okay, so you're 1, Balboa,
Balboa, 2, 3,
3, 4.
4. 2, 3, 4, and the movie that shall not be named.
All right, where do you insert Creed?
I would put Creed, personally, right after Balboa. I would go 1, Balboa, Creed, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Warren,
That's my list.
That's yours too?
That's my list.
That's
yeah.
yours too?
Yeah, that nails it for me. 1, I absolutely love 1. Like, it's a film I can watch over and over again and enjoy and see things. Balboa made me really. I was not anticipating liking that film, and just because where the series left off, I'm like, okay, this is just one more kick at the can. Like, why are we doing this? And it won me over so much so that I elevated to right behind, or maybe comfortably behind 1. Then if we were inserting Creed, that's where I'd put this one, just because there's lots there that for to enjoy and chew on, and then the rest of the series I would run out in order, with a very distant. As we go, very much almost like a gradient of how much it drops. In
well,
a sense
then
for me.
I guess we are unanimous, because I'm going to say the same thing, that I would say 1, and as much as I really love Balboa, Alex, exactly same argument as you, that without Rocky, there is no Balboa. So yeah, 1, then Balboa, and again, in the third spot is where I would insert Creed, and then run out the rest of the series in order as that they came out.
I don't think we're being unfair. I mean,
Yeah.
how many movies can you really say where you get 2, 3, or 4 in that
Yeah.
they're gonna like? You'll watch the rest because the first was so strong, right?
Yeah.
Like it just, I don't want to push 2 so far down, because I really did enjoy that movie. It's still not just a boxing showpiece,
Nope.
right? It still has all the banter with Mick that I love, and
Yeah.
And the chicken
it's-
chasing and the
yeah, and the chicken chasing. It's a great movie, and it's not a bad thing where it is. I really do think there's you've got your A team,
Yeah.
and you've got your B team, and it's almost
That's true.
safer to do. If I were to buy a box set, I would buy this box set for true cinematic love, and then this box set because it ties in nicely and it's some fun with the movies I love. But and then 5 just disappears into the void. Yeah, but I love the fact that the beginning of each new saga, and we can almost call Balboa the beginning of the end, or the end with a beginning, that they were as strong as the first one. Like,
Yeah.
kudos to the Rocky.
that they came back
Yeah.
after a bunch of bad stuff in the middle and managed to get back into form.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
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 Talk about comebacks, eh?
Yeah. Rocky had one last comeback in him. This is a character. This is a film series that has, with multiple things, penetrated the zeitgeist and put its stamp on our society. The music we talked about, the imagery, the run and the steps, and just some of the lines. I think it was from we found it in 4, Rocky 4 line. Alex and I were talking earlier, but the line "hit the one in the middle." But if you would have asked me, and I was having like a personal Mandela effect, I could have sworn that was in like part 2.
You thought Mickey said it.
I thought Mickey said it. And when I say that line as a quote, I say it in my terrible Mickey impersonation. But no, it's actually Paulie that says it. And they're talking about
In
Drago.
4, yeah.
I'm seeing 3 of them out there. Hit the one in the middle. And I think that's a saying that maybe not as much as Eye of the Tiger, but I think a lot of people will still say that. You say hit the one in the middle. But
ask yourself, honestly, what fictional character has so many real-world implications, real-world...
Oh, good point.
Where for all as Rocky. We're not talking about a small bodunk kind of farm out country, town, village of 40 people that has embraced a character. We're talking about the city of Philadelphia, which holds...
thinks of themselves as the home of Rocky Balboa, a fictional character.
Right. It's what one character, when you turn to troubled times, speaks to you more in the real world than Rocky Balboa. Like,
the list is short. It's Rocky and it's Paul Bunyan.
And the ever-reaching grasp of this character is...
Well, like I think you were talking earlier. I think we were off mic, but you were saying that like when Stallone is in Philadelphia, people don't say, "Hey, Sly." Everywhere else in the world, they probably say, "So." Well, some people might say, but in Philly, it's "Hey, Rock."
They're looking for Rocky's autograph. They're not looking for Sylvester Stallone's autograph. They refer to him as the Rock down there. And when you think about getting knocked down and picking yourself back up, how many generations think of Rocky?
Yep.
And now, thanks to the marvelous job they're doing with Creed, the story's going to continue.
It is fantastic. I'm sorry we had to lose Apollo in 4 in such a bad movie. But I guess without Apollo dying, then we wouldn't have as great a story for the Creed films. It's just too bad they couldn't find a way for it. I'd love to see Carl Weathers one more time come back and be that bombastic character. But I loved his intro in the first one when he came in as George Washington and then changed it to Uncle Sam. It's so ridiculous, but so funny. But these things. What else? Any other things you got in your mind, Warren, that hit it?
The only other thing I would say, maybe in all this, that got me thinking about, if we have a Creed film, I wonder if there's room in this world to have maybe like a prequel where we find, Mighty Mick Goldmill, find his previous boxing story. If that is something that has room in this
set
world.
it as a period piece,
exactly,
way back in the 30s.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Could they do it?
That's one thing I was thinking about. I'm like, I wonder if that would be a film, or is Burgess Meredith so tied to that character and so entrenched in our minds on who Mickey is? Is that even fair to even put that out there?
He'd be a completely different character, though.
Yeah,
like Mickey as the fighter is completely different than Mickey as the old trainer. But I don't know. I think that might be a long shot. I think I would. I'd like seeing it, but I don't know if it's a thing that you can sell to a studio as marketable.
Yeah.
To studio heads, a period piece like that. But you never know. Someday we might get that Mickey prequel.
As long as we don't see Clubber Lang Jr. show up in Creed 3, I think...
Why not? That's awesome.
Let's not go to the well too many times.
Oh, Lang shows up. And Rocky's like, his dad did things to me that never been undone.
And those are the little things about the Rocky series that we... like. So Clubber never asked for a rematch, like... How broken did he get? Drago I guess we're going to get the Drago backstory, fortunately, out of this one. It's just those little things, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, Stallone made up backstories for the fighters, and he made up this backstory that Drago ended up dying and having AIDS because of he got it from using bad needles for steroids. And apparently, there was a scene written for Rocky Balboa in an early draft where he went to visit him in the hospital and shit on him and then go and tell the nurse if he dies, he dies. But this was cut out of the script, thankfully. His backstory for Tommy Gunn from the Rocky Five was that he became a third-rate pro wrestler. And his backstory for Clubber Lang was that he became a born-again Christian and became a boxing commentator. And it was written that at one point in an early draft, he would be at ringside during Rocky Balboa and be sitting there smack-talking Rocky through the whole broadcast and saying how he's overrated.
That would have been a little funny.
But yeah, apparently this was cut out and all dumped out of it. But that's just kind of funny to think about. Anyways, guys, I think we have said it all. We've gone 15 rounds, and we're still standing just like The Rock. So thanks for being here. This was really awesome. I think this was the most fun one yet I've had.
Yeah, this was awesome.
And so until next time, when you see three of them out there, hit the one in the middle.